Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Marc Paisant, certified personal trainer, podcast host, mental health advocate, and creator of the Relatively Normal podcast. Mark's story is one a lot of people will relate to, but it's not built around pretending to have everything figured out. It's built around learning how to keep going through anxiety, depression, ADHD, low confidence, and the constant challenge of balancing physical and mental health. As a former collegiate athlete, Mark eventually realized that getting physically healthy alone wasn't enough. Even after losing over 100 pounds, he still had to confront the mental and emotional side of his life. That journey led him to therapy, fitness, mindfulness, and ultimately to creating conversations that helps others feel less alone. Today, through his podcast, training work, and advocacy, Mark speaks openly about therapy, fatherhood, masculinity, mental health, and the importance of asking for help instead of suffering in silence. Mark, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation and I look forward to our conversation.
All right. So, yes, I want you to take us back, right, much more when you were much more younger, right? So, around you probably couldn't see.
And I apologize. You broke up a little bit. Could you repeat the question for me?
All right. So, looking back at your younger years, what were some of the internal struggles people around you probably couldn't see?
Yeah, there was quite a bit, and I did a good job of masking all of it or masking
Um,
most of it, I should say. Um, I was like you said, I was an athlete in college and all through my teens, and I had to stay physically fit and played a lot of sports growing up, had a lot of friends, was fairly popular in school and in my social circles. And then um, I went to college and I was kind of out of sorts. I wasn't really comfortable in the spot that I was in, and but I figured I was there and I might as well make the best of it. And and that moment, I really didn't do enough to kind of really learn enough about myself and prioritize myself. And as I became a young adult, I started to gain the weight and I started to do what a lot of young adults do and try to, find the right job for me while I'm probably, not probably, I was eating the wrong foods and drinking too much and going out too much and trying to like just make myself feel better through external channels when I really wasn't happy with the way I looked. I wasn't happy with the job that I had. And mentally I felt sad a lot. I was anxious a lot, but I tried to keep it all like in. I didn't want to have that persona. I didn't want people to know that about me. So I struggled for the longest time, and I was always trying to find a fitness plan which never worked out, so I felt worse about myself. I just bought bigger clothes as I got as I got bigger, and I felt worse and worse about myself. And I never talked to anybody about that. I never had those discussions until I was, in my 30s that I actually decided to do something about it.
Wow. All right. Okay. So I'll say thanks for, sharing your stories with us. And it's funny how most people, especially men, are actually currently going through what you went through. And the worst part is they can't even speak up because, society expects men to be strong, right? As a man, you're supposed to be strong. There are some certain things you're not supposed to share with people around you because it seemingly makes men weak, right? Look weaker. And I think that is a very bad narrative that the world to, share. And yes, I'm glad that people are now saying it that, okay, this is not a good narrative, and people are becoming more expressive with health, right? So you also spoke about fitness, right? And I want us to talk about your fitness journey actually. So you lost over 100 pounds at one point, right? Which is a huge transformation physically, but emotionally and mentally, what was still unresolved afterwards?
That's the big question because you're right. I went on a
Mm,
physical fitness journey and um
mm,
I definitely I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I felt, and I had this thought in my head that if I just lost a bunch of weight, then I'd feel better about myself, and life would be easier and better for me. And what I
mm,
found is that I started to get addicted to the numbers on the scale. So I
mm.
remember losing my first 15 pounds, feeling great, getting under 300 pounds, feeling great, losing 30 to 40 pounds, and actually looking fairly good. But then I was like, oh, well, I can do more. And I started not really focusing on my health and just focusing on the numbers on the scale. If I can get them lower, if I can get them lower, um, to a point where I actually injured myself running so much. And and once I got to a certain weight, I realized like I still didn't feel great. I may have looked the part, but mentally, I wasn't in the greatest headspace, and I called my therapist up one day and he asked me the question. He said, "Did you feel that when you lost the weight, just everything else would be taken care of?" And I said I said yes. That's the reason I did it. I said, yeah, I figured if I got in shape and lost a bunch of weight, then I would just feel better. I feel better about myself, better about the world. Everything would be great. And that's when we kind of talked about the importance of not relying on one to take care of the other. So not relying on my physical health to take care of my mental health. It's something I had to work on concurrently. I had to work on them at the same time. And what I started to do was I started to focus on how I was feeling during my workouts and in my runs and made sure I wasn't running away from anything or working to forget about anything. I was actually leaning into my stress and leaning into my anxiety when I was working out and through that I found that I could combine the two. I could work out my mental and my physical at the same time, but what I couldn't do was just focus on numbers on a scale and think that I would, just be happy if I made it to a certain number.
Basically, you relied solely on your weight to make you happy, right? And like you've made us understand now, that's not the actual way to go about everything. How do you help people now as a certified trainer, right? How do you help people approach fitness in a more healthier way and more mindful way instead of helping from a place of self-hate or punishment.
And that's the big question. Like, how do we make sure that the people we're trying to help, we're not just hitting specific goals and not really, worrying about the why or doing anything with purpose. And one of the things that I like to do, especially with the people I work with, is be, make sure we're not focusing on just a result. Like I understand there's things that people want to be able to do. There's movements that they want to be able to get to, or there's numbers on a scale they want to get to. But making sure that the purpose of all this is not the end game. Like that's not where the work is done. The work is done actually in the middle. It's the beginning is the hardest part, and then while we're actually doing the work, that's where we really need to focus. And one thing I try to always do is I ask everybody, like, how on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you today before each session? And that could be a weightlifting session, that could be a private session, a one-on-one,
Mm.
could be a technical session, whatever it is. But I just want to know where they are mentally that day. Because if someone comes to me and mentally they're not in a great place. They're at a 2 or a 3 or maybe a 4. Um, I don't want to make it a dense workout. I don't want to make it something where they have to always, just be focused the entire time, because I don't want to just, go at them at a place where they're not mentally there. Now, at the same time, if someone comes to me and says I'm at an 8 or a 9 and they're in a really good mental space, that's when you can start to, really test their limits and have them um, in a place where they need to focus constantly, or maybe even challenge them a little bit more, because that's the time where they're mentally and physically prepared for it, and they'll probably retain a lot more of the information that you give them. So the biggest thing I tell people is to really know your why and to have purpose. Because if you don't know why you're doing something, why you're getting in shape, and honestly, it could be as simple as I just want to look better in a bathing suit. If you
Mm,
just want to look better in a bathing suit, then we have your why. That's fine.
mm,
Because you looking better in a bathing suit still gets you to do the work, but
right.
it doesn't have you just focusing on a number or focusing on an arbitrary result. So that's kind of what I try to do with my with the people I work with.
Right. Wow. Okay. So thank you so much for that one, actually. And yes, personally, that is to you, right? How has therapy changed the way you think about strength and masculinity?
Oh, it's changed me a lot. It has changed
Mm,
me a lot, and not to say I was ever that guy who always had to puff his chest out, but there, I mean, let's be honest, like there always was that pride involved. There always was that I have to be strong. I have to be the one that has all the answers. I have to be the one that anybody can come to, and I'll be able to step up to the plate and know exactly what to do. And
mm,
it was so kind of relieving to start to understand that I didn't have to be there for everyone. I didn't have to always protect everyone involved. Like at some point, I had to prioritize my own mental well-being, and I had to
mm,
step back from those instances where it's like, hey, we expect him to show no emotion. We expect to be able to say anything to him and him not to be able to, care about it. And then at the same time, we expect him to be the strong leader, protector,
mm,
provider
mm,
that's assumed he'll be.
mm,
And for most of my life, like I really didn't want to be that person. I wasn't that person. I was the gentle, loving, caring, funny, you know, add levity to the conversation guy. I wasn't the one that wanted to, chase the girls and pick fights. That wasn't me, but I tried to become that person because I figured that's what everyone was doing, whoever, was a man. And it was kind of cool looking back how I was able to start to understand that everyone is unique. Like everyone is
mm,
different. I mean, there's men out there who thrive in those situations, who want to be that person. But
mm,
for people like me, guys like me, I just want I just want to be good. Like I don't need that
mm,
stuff. And I thought me saying that out loud would like make people upset, would make people think differently about me. But they don't. Once they find out the real you, and how you're just a gentle being, and you just want peace, and you want people to appreciate you and want people to live their own lives. It was actually so relaxing, and it lifted a huge weight off my chest where I could just start to be myself.
mm. Wow. All right. Okay. So yes, thank you so much. So now you're letting us know that it's actually important, right, as a man, right, to just be expressive right? And even if people know the real you, it still doesn't change anything about you, honestly. And yes, talking about fatherhood, vulnerability, and real conversations, right? You're also a husband and father of two daughters, right? So how has fatherhood changed your perspective on, emotional vulnerability?
And I assume that most men, and I can only speak for men who,
Mm,
who witness or go through, becoming a father, like the moment, yeah, the moment my first child came into this world, like everything changed for me. Like it was a wonderful and scary experience at the same time. And whoever has kids understands this. Like even leaving the hospital the day after she was born, in my head, I'm like, why are they letting us leave? Like, why are they giving us this child? Like we don't know what to do. And it was the most frightening experience. But once that happens, at least for me, you start to think about the things in your childhood that really became core memories, whether good or bad.
mm,
Think about those times where you tried to open up to your parents and it was their way or the highway and how that made you feel. Or the times
mm,
where, you were right and your parents were wrong and they refused to apologize because they were the parents and you were the child. And all these things start kind of playing through my mind of how I want to, be a different type of parent and caregiver and role model for my girls because I have two girls and they're preteens, very
mm,
impressionable right now. And at the same time, I'm thinking about am I the example of for all men in their future lives? Am I the example they're going to hold everyone in comparison to? And so you start to think about, do I get upset at them when they show some type of emotion? Do I ask them not to be as an emotional? Like, no, I want to validate their emotions. I want to be empathetic. I want to try my hardest to listen to them without judgment. I want them to feel safe or comfortable when they have to come to me for anything in life, good or bad in
mm,
their head, because I start to think about like if I can't be a safe space for them at home, then who is that going to be in their lives? If they can't, trust their dad to be kind and forgiving and show grace and allow them to be themselves, who else is going to do that? Or how will they know how that looks? So it has been, fatherhood has been a journey for me as, as anybody can tell, as they grow up and get their little attitudes and they show their
mm.
personalities and
Right.
yeah. And so, but that's like my job is to let them be independent and let them do those things because I want them to understand that they're unique and special and they are, their feelings are valid. So at no
Mm,
point do I try to like curb who they can be or who they are. I just try to sit back and do my best not to create any trauma for them that they're going to look back and say, I wish my dad hadn't done that.
right. Wow. Okay. I would say, people would wish to have a father like you, honestly. I mean, a father that genuinely cares about his daughter's emotion. And, that's something people pray about. So, yeah, I would say that. And also, through your podcast, right, honestly, about stress and mental health, basically. So, why do you think people crave those conversations now more than ever?
For me, it was when I was at my lowest and I felt the worst, I always felt like I was alone. I always felt like no one else had these feelings and I was the only person. Example, like, the sun is shining outside. I'm the only one that it's raining on right now. That's the type of feelings that people have. And the reason I started my show and the reason I talk about it is I just want people to know that they're not alone, that the world can feel big and you can feel so tiny in it, but you're not here by yourself or you're not experiencing this alone. So I figured that if I can be open and honest with it, which a lot of people don't want to be, which I understand, I get it. It's scary to be vulnerable. Um, but I figured that if I'm the one that's being vulnerable, if I'm the one that's being open and saying I've gone through dark days and I've had trouble focusing and I've gone to sleep with a lot of anxiety and woken up with the same anxiety. If I say these things and someone else might say, "Oh, hey, I'm not alone in this world. Let me listen to what Mark has to say because maybe he can shed some insight on, how I can help with my coping mechanisms or how I can just start my journey of opening up to one person, of saying to one person I need help or that I have these feelings or yesterday wasn't a great day for me." So I'm not trying to, I'm not technically I'm not trying to change the world. I'm not trying to do this, big, explosive, huge change in the world. I'm literally just trying to make someone feel that they're not alone and make someone
Mm,
feel that it's okay. The world's not gonna just blow up if you come out and say, I need help. So that's, I mean,
right.
that's the main reason I do it.
Wow. All right. So yes, thank you, Mark, also for such an amazing conversation. And for, like you said, it's important for people to know that they are not alone, right? And yes, talking about young adults, because it's mostly young adults who find it difficult to navigate things like mental health and other things, right? So I would need for you to talk to someone out there, specifically younger adults, right? So a lot of people in their 20s, they feel overwhelmed trying to figure life out while silently battling mental health struggles, right? So what advice would you give to them?
At the earliest age you can, like a lot of us have been through it. And the thing about I can talk about myself when I was an early adult. We don't want to hear from the experienced people. We don't want to hear what you had to say. I think the term that a lot of the young people use for me nowadays is unk, as I'm in my 40s now, and they use it as a term of endearment, but I like it. But like the experiences in life will teach you what you need to know. So there's certain things that people don't want to be told. They just have to experience. And I've said this often. Like I do my best not to give unsolicited advice to people younger than me because they need to experience it, whether that's about marriage, whether that's about kids, whether it's about work, coaching, hobby, whatever it is. But I will say this, the comparison is the killer of all
I'm
joy.
sorry. Right.
Yes. And it's very much true. Coming out of college, a perfect example is my brother was doing better than me in my eyes, was doing better than me after college. And I always tried to live up to that standard. And I wasted years of my life trying to like compare myself to him or be as good as him. And looking back, I'm sure people were doing the same thing with me. People looked at my life and
Mhm.
said, man, I wish I could be more like Mark. And then people were doing with their life. So all I say is like, just take it one day at a time. Do not try to get through your 20s too fast or your 30s too fast. Like, just enjoy the moment. And as quickly as you can, start prioritizing your mental and physical health.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is a, a lot of us do a good job of taking care of our friends and our family. We'll look out for everyone else. And then when it's time to look out for ourselves, there's nothing left to pour out of our cup. It's an empty cup. We've given it to everyone else. But if we can just reframe how we think about our relationships and make sure that we're good
mm,
before others are good. It's the same like what do they tell you before you get in an airplane? Airplane, put your own mask on before you assist with someone else.
right.
The reason for that is because like you can't be your best version. You can't be your best self if you don't take care of yourself. And then You can't be your best, the best version of yourself for other people if you don't do that. And I know this is hard for so many people. They feel it's selfish. They feel like they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But, self-care is never selfish. You want
Mm,
to be the best version of yourself when you're helping out other people.
mm. All right. Self-care is never selfish. That's the key word right there. All right. So yes, I would say thank you so much for sharing such a meaningful insights with us today. Personally, I've learned a lot and I'm gonna make sure I put these into my daily life. And yes, this brings me to the final segment of my podcast. I call it the rapid fire segment. You could either answer with a word or a phrase starting now. What is one habit that helps your mental health daily?
Putting the phone down and not doom scrolling.
Hmm. Okay. All right. What does strength mean to you today?
Strength to me is vulnerability. Whoever can
Hmm.
show that they don't know everything, to me, that's the strongest person in the room.
Hmm. And finally, what is one thing you wish more men talked about openly?
That's a good one. How much they love self-care. Like I really
Hmm.
wish more men talked about like how much they love skincare and hair care products in certain fashion. Like I wish men just opened up and because I listen, I moisturize every day and I feel better
Hmm.
for it. So I really wish men talked more about that.
Okay. All right. So yes, thank you, Mark. And finally, before you go, where can listeners get to, learn more about you and also connect with you?
I make it really easy. You can get everything through my website, marcpaisant.com, MarcPaisant.com. That has links to all my shows and all my socials.
Hmm. All right. So yes, thank you, Mark, for such important and grounded conversation because, I think a lot of people are silently carrying struggles that they do not talk about openly. And hearing someone speak openly about therapy, fitness, fatherhood, and mental health can actually genuinely make people feel less alone. So, yes, thank you once again, Mark. And to my listeners, thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Mark, and do have a wonderful day ahead of you.
Thank you very much. I had a great time.
All right, I did too. Take care. All right.